Good morning, good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, instead of a rant, I wanted to take you into something. I've mentioned it many times while talking about the JRC, in particular the bundling popsicle sticks. And this is in regards to sheltered workshops. I'm not going to go into this article in depth because after I finish up the front loads for today, I'm going to be giving it its own video. But I just wanted to give you a good idea of what these are and how places like JRC touted as a bright future. You're going to find the link to this article, by the way, in the description box, along with all the other links we're going to be going through and the disclaimers in a moment. But this particular article says what the disability community has told us about sheltered workshops. Reporter Madison Hopkins tells us how she learned the context behind what she was hearing from Missouri disabled workers and their families. See, this is a sheltered workshop here. You can kind of see what that looks like. If it looks bleak, that's because it is. Bright future, right? Great. Sign me up. Okay. It says, earlier this week we published a story about sheltered workshops in Missouri. Facilities where it's legal to pay employees less than the minimum wage because they have intellectual, developmental, or physical disabilities. More than 5,000 disabled adults work in Missouri's sheltered workshops, some earning less than $1 per hour. So, folks, if you think that's a livable wage, yeah, it's time for your reality check. If you think this is a way to promote independence and self-worth, I got a river in Egypt I can sell you. Beachfront property in Kansas. I got beachfront property in Kansas I can sell you. Let's do that. Across the country, disability rights advocates have lamented these facilities and their low wages, calling them discriminatory and exploitative. At least 14 states have banned subminimum wages, and advocates are ramping up pressure on the federal government to repeal the more than 80-year law authorizing them nationwide. So when my reporting for this story got underway in April, part of the year-long collaboration between the Kansas City Beacon and ProPublica, I expected to hear similar sentiments in Missouri. Instead, one of my early findings surprised me. Disabled adults and their families in Missouri seemed to strongly support sheltered workshops. They did not focus on the low pay or the dearth of other opportunities. Most said they were simply grateful for the jobs that the facilities offered. So let me kind of explain this to you all. Let's talk about Missouri for a minute, because they tried to put my ass into one of those sheltered workshops many years ago. I resisted and refused. Managed to instead get for myself a job with American Family Insurance where I was living at the time. How can I put this delicately? The way the developmentally disabled are treated in this state. How can I put this delicately here? It's this effort to keep us dependent. What do I mean by this? As someone who's actually been through it myself and was able to see past the stupidity and the insanity, and I had a mother, thank God, who saw the same things and agreed. What they do out here, through the social services, through Social Security, voc rehab, all of it, is they use fear tactics. What I'm talking about is when I came out of high school, I knew goddamn good and well that I was more than fully capable to be able to take on a full-time job. However, living in an assisted living apartment at the time and Medicaid, food stamps, things that I'd be put on right out of high school, what they kept doing to me is saying, but Tiff, if you do that, they'll cut your Social Security. You'll be forced off Medicaid. You'll be forced off food stamps. Yeah, threaten your benefits. Oh, it goes even one better, for even when I played the game and did that part-time work for 6 years, whenever I made over $900, whenever they saw that in my bank account, the state would then wipe out my bank account. No, I'm not kidding. They had determined that I was making too much money. Therefore, they took the money back. I was put in the red, folks, more times than I care to count. And had I not been under Section 8 housing at the time, I would have been out on the street. Okay? So what is the alternative? What do they offer us so we won't lose our benefits? They offered sheltered workshops. Sheltered workshops is under this idea, this fallacy, that these individuals who are placed here do not have the ability to be able to earn a competitive wage, that they wouldn't be able to handle a real, even part-time regular job. What's interesting here, though, is what those jobs entail is your basic warehouse jobs, right? They're putting together gift baskets. They're packaging candy bars. They're packaging candies, Easter baskets. As an individual who's worked fast food, what do these people think fast food and warehouse jobs outside of these sheltered workshops are? It's the same type of assembly line, right? Same type of assembly line. Now, I am not an idiot. I am well aware of the fact that some individuals, due to physical limitations and other issues, they're really not the kind of individuals that need to be working out there in a regular job. I get that. I comprehend this. I understand it. But these individuals that I'm referring to here don't work in the workshops. They live in their assisted living places with their staff, and they do other things. Some of them are some of the most powerful advocates in the state, particularly for those with physical disabilities and limitations. What they're doing in these workshops is very similar to what's being done in other workshops where people are paid a full minimum wage at the very least. Matter of fact, out here in this state in particular, some of the very highest paying union protected jobs out here are in the warehouses. To get very specific here, we have a craft factory out here in my city where they package the macaroni and cheese boxes and the individual slices of Kraft's sandwich slices of cheese. Very similar work to what they're doing at the workshops, right? So it begs the question, if they are capable of doing that kind of job inside the sheltered workshops? Why is it not instead encouraged for them to maybe work part-time work at places like craft, right? Right? You would think. One would think, right? But there's an inherent systemic ableism out here. It's this idea, this concept, but that these individuals have particular supports at the sheltered workshops that they would not have in a normal work environment. It's true to a point. True to a point. However, you have individuals who work in those workshops who I've seen successfully later on move to part-time jobs in the community where they were perfectly fine. So it kind of begs the question, doesn't it? Doesn't it? What gets most of us advocates the most fired up about these sheltered workshops is that they get away with paying these folks sub-minimum wages. Why do families and people with disabilities not complain? Because they've been conditioned by this state from very early ages that they have to protect their benefits, right? They have to protect their Social Security, their Medicaid, if they needed the food stamps. Now, as someone who's lived on all of this and fought like hell for 6 years to get off of this insanity, I can tell you what it's doing is keeping disabled people beneath the poverty line. Why am I going into this subject before we go into the JRC? It's real simple, folks. When places, schools like this, teach so-called work skills, it's not exactly like me in high school where I was spending half the day in college and half the day in regular schools to start learning graphic arts, right? No, it's not what they're doing here. Places like this are basically preparing and conditioning people with disabilities to do these very menial jobs, but to also accept inferior wages. Yeah. It's a setup. So, setup, folks. And by the way, I can't tell you how many individuals have told me, well, you just don't understand. You're not like my child. If I had a freaking dollar for every time I've had someone scream at me that you're not my child, my ass would have beachfront property on a tropical island somewhere with my cat, okay? But I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding about this. But this is the bright future that schools like the JRC are preparing these kids for. A bright, wonderful, independent future where you are dependent on the mercy of the state for the rest of your life. And what do we know about programs like Social Security, food stamps, and Medicaid? That governments, both federal and state, continue with impunity to remove more and more funds from every year. Every year. Now, when I was under these things, it was back early 2000s. And what I was receiving per month for these so-called benefits got reduced at least 3 times. 3 times, folks. You want to know why it was literally not until last year, from the years 2008 to literally 2022, that I've been to a dentist Medicaid doesn't cover dentistry out here. Yeah, that, right? That. This is the bright future they're preparing us for. Excuse me if I don't leap for joy. Why parents and people with disabilities are grateful for these institutions, it's because we've been conditioned to be so. Basically, we receive scraps, and we're conditioned to be grateful for those scraps. I say this as an individual who's had a family member work in these sheltered workshops, who's actually retired from one of them. Am I saying everything about them is bad? No, I'm not. In fact, having a system like that, in particular when someone's in the lurch after graduating high school and in that limbo of not knowing what they're going to do, something like that could be useful if they would pay their employees at the very least minimum wage while teaching them those job skills. And how do I know that it's possible? Because there are other job programs out here. I know because I was thrown into one of them, where you will have job coaches on site for a job in the community to help you learn that job. There's even tax breaks for businesses out here who are willing to work with the job programs and job coaches to take on people like myself. You see where this is going, right? I hope you do. It's not a bright future, folks. And it makes me sick to my stomach to know that both the parents of disabled people as well as the disabled people themselves are taught and systematically conditioned to accept that they're going to live beneath the poverty line. That, oh, it may not pay them well, but it gives them a sense of worth. Explain to me how making me work for sub-minimum wage gives me a sense of work and accomplishment. Because it doesn't. Really doesn't. All right. Now to the disclaimers. In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. We also have in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually has the cojones to see through with their threat. We also have linked in there the Ozark's first article in regards to Agape Boarding School, now known as Stone for Help Boarding School. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have since then been substantiated by the hard evidence gathered by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general who continues to refuse, to do his actual job and, chase after drag queens instead of protecting kids from the real pedophiles out here. And I don't even know what to say about my governor at this point other than send help. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the Jennifer Masemba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of it, catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please go ahead and use the headphones, all right? All right, before we get into this, if the sheltered workshops would actually pay these individuals their full worth as an employee, at least minimum wage, I probably wouldn't come after them quite as hard as I do. But I know for a fact, having friends and having a family member having worked in them, that they are doing at the very least the same level of work as any of your average high school student who's working fast food while going to high school. But one gets minimum wage and one does not. All right, now we'll move on here. Rest of the disclaimers, sorry. All right, when we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, catch clips or surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please, folks, go ahead, use those headphones, all right? All right, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We do use profanity on occasion, and we talk on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? Okay, trigger warning. We are about to once again descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, abuse and torture apologencia, pseudoscience, lies, all coming from a man with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So, as always, folks, you know the drill. Prepare yourselves for the stupid. To the next paragraph. Now, to bring you back from yesterday, just to remind you, this is Dr. Matthew Israel, once again, citing himself as a source for this so-called study, which means the results thereof is already going to be biased and it might as well use it for toilet paper, right? Okay, here we go. In June of 1993, JRC began to be treating the beginning phases of the behavior being treated. Most of the aggressive behavior started with LL's bolting out of his seat in the classroom and attacking another student or staff member. Okay. Gonna stop you, doctor. Did you ever find out why he was attacking this person? No? Why am I not surprised, right? Sorry, I gotta adjust myself, folks. Just a moment here. Sorry, kid. Okay. What JRC does so well is all they talk about is the behaviors. Never once, in all this crap I've read from him, have I ever seen him reference what's causing that behavior. All he mentions is that the behavior happened and it was so horrible that he has to torture us. He gives us no context to go off of. You noticed that, right? He's just saying, well, he's just attacking the student or staff member for no reason. But what do we know from Jennifer Masemba and the New York State Department of Special Education? That JRC encourages bullying amongst the students. We also know that the staff will target and bully and systematically abuse a particular person of their choice. If that doesn't provoke someone to attacking you eventually, I don't know what to tell you on that. But let's move on, shall we? Prior to June of 1993, JRC had arranged for the GED consequence as soon as he attacked the student or staff member. In June of 1993, JRC devised a scheme that would punish the very first member of the chain of behaviors that led to aggression, which was bolting from his seat. Again, what is the JRC doing? They give you no context. They're not telling you what happened before this person attacked the student, a staff member. Convenient, isn't it? No, the JRC wants you to believe that these behaviors are not in any way provoked. I hate to tell you this, Dr. Karen, but if you were doing that crap to me, you better bet that I would be getting out of my seat to come for you. You better believe it. As would most individuals. Eventually, we all get tired, no matter how nice we are. So they never give you full context. They never tell you what triggered the behavior. They would have you believe that all staff and other students are above par, that they're not doing anything wrong, when we all know that they are. In fact, they use their behavioral rehearsal lessons to directly provoke a person. So when we attack or when we fly away from you, how is this a surprise? That's a normal human reaction. Now, we've also mentioned previously, as of yesterday, but what could cause you to bolt from your seat? As a person who went to elementary school, allow me to tell you the first thing that would have me bolting out of the classroom like the hounds of hell were on my heels. I had the potty. If I did not bolt out of there like a crazy woman, I was going to pee my pants. And I'm sorry, being unable to attend recess as opposed to embarrassing myself in front of the class that was already targeting and bullying me as an entire whole, I'm willing to go without the recess. What are other reasons one might bolt out of their seat? Perhaps because you're shocking me with electricity. If you all watched the Andre McCollum's video, and I think the majority of you have, you noticed that he popped out of his seat and then was shocked again. What do we know about electricity, folks? Involuntary muscle movement. It's not even surprising to me that they would bolt up out of their seat. Or get aggressive, for that matter. This is what I mean when I say no one really allows us in this school to be human. Know what I mean? What are other reasons for bolting out of your seat? Oh, we've all been kids, right? There's a lot of myriad of reasons. Now let's take a neurotypical student of the same age and put them in the same scenario. You're going to shock them for bolting out of their seat, doctor? Well, they haven't shown previous behaviors. You've never been around elementary school neurotypicals, have you? Because they are bullies, they are mean. The list goes on. I had a target painted on my back from day one when I entered in public school, folks. So, yeah, please spare me. Neurotypical kids bolt from their seats too. However, we're not suggesting that because they're bolting out of their seats that they're going to have aggressions, even when they do. Bullies exist. And to go back to what we've been talking previously through the last several videos, there are several reasons why one might bolt up from their seat or even get up out of their seat. none of them which have to do with aggression. But the behaviors that start when you get aggressive, when you go to meltdown, it starts with getting up out of your seat. So does getting up to get a sandwich, getting up to shake someone's hand, getting up to go get a book. This is what I mean when I say this individual does not operate off logic whatsoever. If we were to punish everyone simply for getting up out of their seats, I don't know how this world would function. We're going to go ahead and close out on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. And the few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to hit those comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone. Sorry, folks. Anyway.